Okay, welcome along everybody. Can you all hear me there? Cool, righto. Coming to you today from St. Petersburg, so new setup. So just make sure it works. Righto, so today we're going to go through the stair tool, the new ArchiCAD 21 stair tool, which is this little beast just here. So if we're going to make a stair, you've probably all seen the presentations of all the fancy things we can do with the stair now, and how you can edit it and do all sorts of weird and wonderful stairs. But I just want to go through the basic commands that we need to remember and keep in mind when we're developing the stairs, and also putting handrails on there, and the best ways for all that to work together, or the best ways I've found so far. So this is the stair object here. So if we click on that, we'll double click, and we'll open up our stair dialog. So in here, there's a whole lot of options down the side here on what we can do with our stair. It's probably a bit more detailed than the previous stair maker, but I think a lot makes a wee bit more sense as well at times. So if we start at the top, like normal, here we can set the height and the starting point of our stairs like any object. Over here we can set the stair width. Here we can adjust the number of rises, so it's obviously worked out that we've got a 3-meter rise, and that we've got some parameters down here dictating maximum and minimum riser heights. So it's worked out the options available, so we can stick with just the first one, or if we've got a number in mind, we can choose whatever we want to there. Here again, riser height, so it's worked out the different riser heights relative to the height we have available, and the parameters down here. So we need to keep in mind too that quite often we've got different requirements for different types of stairways, like if it's an accessible stairway or just a private stairway up to a little storage area that hardly anyone uses, we can make it a wee bit steeper, a wee bit higher. And then we have here the options. Oh, sorry, with this one over here, we can where we start with the riser. So we're going to start with a riser, or we can start with a tread. So that means that the first tread is 0. Sorry if you hear the noise in the background, but that's Evangeline trying to get to sleep. We can then change the top of the stair, so we can end with a tread again. So that means that there's one tread level with the floor at the top, or we can end one riser down, or one tread down from the top. Next options are whether we want to have a fixed tread depth or going depth, or whether we're flexible. So we can choose fixed and set a dimension in there if we want. So if we wanted to make that just 300, and if you note there, that's from the edge of nosing to the edge of nosing, not the full depth of the tread. And then come down here, we can choose to either have a vertical straight riser, or we can put a slanted riser in and set the angle there. And again, 2 options there of doing it by an angle or by a set distance. So plenty of flexibility there. And then now is the type of landing that we want to use. So whether we just leave it up to the Stairbuilder to make an automatic landing, we can split it with a single winder, or we can put some winders in there with some equal goings. And then come down here, we've got the control point, or the reference line of the stair, so whether it's on the left, center, or the right. And we can also, if you need to, set offset to to the reference line in here. So now we can come down into the rules and standards section. So we can set the riser height. So we've got some minimum and a maximum height here. So by clicking in the box here, we can change that. We can make that 210, say. Same with the goings. We can adjust those, and we can actually turn these off as well. So we could either have just a minimum or just a maximum, or neither, or both. So yeah, it's up to you. Then we have the riser to going ratio, so the simple 2 riser plus 1 going ratio. We can set the minimum and maximum parameters for that. Typically that's 600 to 650. Then we can set the riser to going as a ratio, so a minimum and a maximum there. And then we can do a option of a riser plus a going. And we've also got the option of the stair pitch, so that's the angle from edge of the tread to edge of the next tread. In some councils or municipalities work with, or building codes work with angles as well. So even though the minimum or the minimum tread depth and the maximum riser might not work out, as long as you're within the pitch as well, that can work. Then we can set the automatic landing length here, so we can make that's a minimum length of, say, 900 model units, so that's 900 millimeters in the case of my model here. Or we can set it for a number of goings, so whether it's 3 treads wide or 4 treads wide or long, whatever we want. And then further down we can set, especially for like curved flights and winders, we can set the offset for the walking line, so that when we work out the length of the stair, the pitch length of the stair, we can do that per what relevant building code to wherever the stair is going. And then this one here just allows you to adjust how the actual walking line symbol shows up. So whether you want it angled, so a right angle at the corner, or a square, or just point-to-point connection, or whether you want to make it a rounded line. And then if you have some winded with equal goings, this sort of landing option, you can then set the tapered tread width, the minimum internal dimension of the tread. So that's all the basic rules under the stair, and then obviously all the IFC and properties and classifications down here. There's everything from fire ratings, and we can set those up, but we won't go into that one so much now, but I'll just give you a quick look in there. So whether the construction type, what technology, so whether it's prefabricated or cast in situ, or prefabricated and cast. What else? Concrete cover, the main, what's that? Main bars, the class of surface, so that'd be the surface finish, so all sorts of options down there. So now if we go up to the structure, and why have we, sorry, this we look to have jammed here. Stairs, where are we? Come back. Sorry about that. So we've just gone through all of that section. So now we go through to the structure. So on this one, we can set up what type of stair we want. So whether we want it as a monolithic concrete stair, where we want to have a supporting beam down the centre, whether it's cantilever from the wall or whether we've got stringers down the side. And again, options here for the stringers, we've got stringers left or stringers right, or stringers both sides. And we get to choose our landing structure as well. So again, the same options: monolithic, the beam, cantilever, and stringers only. And again, the options there. And next one, we come to the stringers for the flight. So we can tell it what the support shape is looking like here. So whether we want just sort of like an angled stringer, like say a solid piece of timber, concrete, or whether we want to step it down there, make it a bit more of a feature. There's probably some more options we can put in there, but we haven't got those yet. So here we set the distances. So this is the stringer height above the treads. This is the structure thickness, so the thickness of the stringer, and the width of the stringer, the depth of it. Down in here, we can manipulate again the shape of the stringer, so whether it's a rectangular beam, a slanted angled sides beam, or a round oval beam, and then we can again set the dimensions of the height and width in there, and materials in here. Now this one is how we finish the beam, finish the stringer at the top and the bottom. Excuse me. Where we have a plate at the top and a plate at the bottom, and then we can come in there and manipulate the size and type of plate, angles and all sorts of things there, whether it follows the beam or whether it's perpendicular to the beam. So that's the plate here, the plate direction, and then same on the bottom plate, and then just the standard pin set type options. So once we've got the stringer for the flight sorted, then we can go and deal with the stringers for the landings. Again, we've got the 3 different options, so just we'll stick with those for now. And again, you can put plates on the top and the bottom if need be, or we can turn those off. You should turn those off, they look ugly. And same options there as we can customize the landing stringer. So now we move on to the finish for the tread. So first option is whether it's just a tread. So that means we've got to finish over top of the tread, or whether we've got to finish to the riser only, or whether we're going to put a finish on the tread and riser. So now we can adjust, or we could customize the treads itself, whether it's got a nosing. I can't see that. No, I can't see much there, but nosing. So we can set the type of nosing, round, curved, and right through to angled. We can put whether it's got a recess in the top of the tread, so we can again set all the dimensions from there, how far off each side it is, how deep the rebate is, wide, and how far apart they are, and where we start the offset from. And you can also set the number of those. So we put a few more in, and how we want to multiply them, so whether we distribute them or spread them. And then we can also choose a non-slip accessory here, so to go on the nosing as well. So I can put a typical edge protection on there. Again, you can choose what type you want and customize all the various dimensions there. And then there's the pen settings for the tread. Riser, basically pretty limited here, but you can choose to put the riser on the tread or not. It seems that the riser thickness and the riser gap. So that's where if we're okay, so if we put the riser on the tread, carries the tread right through the back of the riser. If we turn it off, it stops the tread at the front of the riser. Then we can put the reveal on the riser and put a depth for it there, and then again dimension how big it is, where it sits from each side, and in the bottom and the top. Now the next stage is how do we want it to look on our floor plan. So we can start at the top here, and we can basically choose the typical options from Home Story only: one up, one down, up and down, just one up, just one down, all relevant, all stories, whatever we need. And this here gives us the view, the 2D view of how it looks on those different stories. So this is the above relevant story, and this is the on the relevant story. And so we come in here, and then we can customize exactly how we want it to look on each of the options here. So if it's above the relevant story, do we want it to show the, where are we, the top of the stair as solid and the bottom half is dashed? And then we can do the opposite there, so the brake mark visible with the visible bottom and hidden top. So then we can actually come in here and open this up, and we can go through and customize this piece by piece down to our pins and our line type. So this is for the grid, so this is the basic outline of the stair. The brake mark, so we can then tell it brake positioned, so whether it's at the floor plane cut height, or whether we want to choose a custom height. For some reason we want to make it higher or lower, or at a particular riser, so you know, make it riser 5. Yep. And then here we go, how wide the brake line is, so we can choose by number of goings, an angle relative to the vertical, angle relative to the horizontal. But if we were just to go here, number of goings, and make it say 2, it puts the angle over to a wider number of goings. And then we can set here the distance of the brake line, so if for any reason we wanted to make that different, so if we put it at 200, it will split it apart like that. And again, we can adjust all the line colors for each of the visible parts and the line types. Next one is the walking line, so we can choose where that goes, either the default position, which is the center, or the center, or we can customize where it is. But how do we? Okay, I have to look into that a bit more. We can customize that, but it doesn't give us anywhere where to. Oh, hold on. I think that might have been. Sorry, that was the settings back up here where we set walking line range. Yeah, so where we set this, that will then apply to custom in here. So we just stick it at center for now. And then again, we can adjust the pin types and the line types. We can reverse the walking line on the visible parts for whatever reason, or hidden parts. We can choose the start symbol, so we've got a choice of 3 here. So we can adjust the size. We can tell it whether we could start it on the second tread rather than the first, for whatever reason. And again, adjust the lines and the colors. And we can also adjust the top arrow to whatever we want. And again, just the colors and the lines. And then we can set up the numbering, so we can give it a position relative to the tread percentage. We can offset it from the edge of the tread, so if we just see what we do here, say 200 puts that further up the tread. So if we just go back to 75. Numbering, so we can number the treads or we can number the risers. So just slightly adjust the position. And again, we can start numbering on the nth tread or riser. So we could start numbering on the 5th, say, and that will just hide the numbering from all those below. We can start renumbering at each landing, and we can tell it whether we want to show the numbering on all the treads, or if we're drawing at a smaller scale, we could just choose, first and last, or every so many treads. So we could show on the nth tread. So if we put every 3rd tread, then it hides all of those. So we can stop the numbering at a certain tread. So we can stop numbering at 8. And we can start numbering from a different number for whatever reasons. And then we've got our text and story settings, and whether we want to show our text above the relevant stories. Now we go to the up and down reference. So if we want to show which is up and which is down, and again, we can even customize that to whatever you need. And tell it to offset or relative to the bottom of the stair, and change pin colors and show on which stories. So the description, we can turn that on. So we can choose whether we want to show here number of risers, number of goings, number of risers at whatever height to give us stair height. So there's all sorts of options there, that one. And then obviously down here is the same sort of option, so we can show 2 lots of information. We can customize the text here if we want to change anything. So from going, in some places they might call it a tread. Change that, so that'll change in the label there, the separator. And then we can show the units if we wanted to. Show the length units, so we can choose whether it's millimeters, centimeters, decimeters, meters, inches. So that'll just drop everything back there. We can set the number of decimals. And we can set if we want it to be extra accurate or not. We can hide whole zeros and decimals, and again change the pin types and stuff like that. So now we've got the structure overall, the treads. I've got the stringers, so we can adjust the pin colors and pin types for all of these little elements here as well. Put in some background fills if we really need to. And then we can come down to the reflected ceiling plan display, so we can choose also how we want to show the stairs in a reflected ceiling plan. So we can choose how we want the lines to show, what colors, what backgrounds, what foreground fills, and how hidden parts will look. Show it if we want to show the brake mark, the same stuff. So if we now go to the model, and if we want to place a stair, another cool little thing with the stair tool is that as you once you've chosen where you want to put the stair, and as you move it out, it actually shows you the full extent of the stair and stops it at the maximum depending on the parameters that would set with, like maximum going width, maximum rises, and all those sorts of things. So we can come in here and be confident that once we've placed that stair there, that it will in fact now reach between the two floors. And if I now drag that along, so that stair is nicely placed, all well positioned and dimensioned evenly from the bottom to the next floor. Now, if we go into the railing tool, we can actually, in the stairs, we can turn the railings on as we place the stair, but if we're going to make multiple stairs, like, 3, 4, 5, 6 stories high, and we're going to be duplicating the same stair option above each other, I don't think putting the railing on with the stair is a good option, because we end up with the railings not connecting between stair flights. So it's probably better in an instance where we have a lot of flights above each other is that you place the railing separately once you've got all the stairs in place, and then that way we can get a nice continuous stair rail from bottom to the top, and it will take care of all the connections as we change angles and switch back and things like that. So if we go to the railing options, so in the railing, if we go to the favorite part of it, we get a basic setup here for typical railing. So I've got a basic railing with vertical slats, a glass paneled one, wired one, so it's horizontal slats, and then like a timber fence. So if we were just to go, say, start with the basic railing, we'll show you with this one. Why did that not open up? So there we go. Now, again, we've got a whole host of options here to customize the railing to make it as flexible as possible. So we'll start at the top. Again, we can say how far off the floor we want the railing to start. So if we want it to be 100 mils off, or 50 mils off the floor, or even below the floor level. So if it comes down beyond the floor, we can put a negative figure in here. So, 150, say. We can choose whether the railing is static. So that means if we change anything that the railing is connected to, that the railing stays as it is, which is probably not that smart a move, unless sort of later in the stage, the design is pretty well developed, and for some reason you needed to do that. Or associative, which means that it's going to stick with whatever you've stuck it to. So if it's a floor slab and there's a hole in the slab and you've put a railing around that hole and you make the hole bigger or smaller, the railing will be bigger or smaller, the same. And so that's to do with the node and the railing, and then also with the segments, so that the portions of the rail as it goes around the opening or the stair. So we can default to using the display settings of the associated stair if we want. So that's with regards to where we see the railing, or we can come through and customize that separately for whatever reason in here. So you've got all those same options we always have. And then you can dictate how the railing will look on particular stories, so we can change it depending on what stories it's on. So the component visibility and detail level, so by the model view options. So in the model view options, we can set what shows in particular view sets if we want, and we can turn parts off and on, or we can customize that ourselves. So if we just leave it with model view for now, and then we can override the floor plan symbols. So we've got the option again of line types and pen colors, and then we can set up the break markings as like settings, same as the stairs basically. And then we can start onto the setup of the railing itself. So we can, this will tell us what's in the rail. So we've got the balusters there, we've got a handrail, we've got a top rail, a bottom rail, inner post. Can't choose the outer post. And again, if we want to customize this, we can actually choose whichever one of these. So just say we don't need a handrail, we'll use the top rail as a handrail. We can come in here and then we can actually delete that off the object from there. And if we go through here, we can then we can customize our top rail, and these are the 4 basic settings. But again, custom, we call it custom profiles, can be made to whatever we need. So if you've got a special rail, top rail, it's easily made in a custom profile assigned to a railing, and it will show up in here. Down here, we can choose the type as well. We can choose the material, when we tell it whether it's hollow or not. So we turn on hollow or not. Dimensions here, height and width, and whether we want to show the fixing plate. So that's underneath it, and the dimensions of the fixing plate here. So it's height, sorry, the plate height. This is the full height of the profile, and the plate width. Go through here, we can show fixings if we need to. So for whatever reason we want to have that top rail offset from something, we can show those. And we can tell it where we want the fixings to be shown. So at divisions at posts, divisions. So we can split the number of divisions here, and then the starting distance from inside, from the end of the post where those fixings will start, or by pattern length. So we could set a automatic distance between fixings here. So it was a meter, and then that'll automatically adjust those to fit correctly. And again, we can customize all the lines and colors for the handrail, top rail, sorry. Go through the same for the handrail. It's all basically exactly the same. Rails being the bottom rail, again, same, a lot of options there. Inner post, so that's this one here. So we can tell it how far it is from the previous one, whether we have a single or a duplicate inner post, and how what their offset is. Top offset, so is how far from the top of the handrail the post finishes, and again how far up from the bottom. And then all these same basic options for choosing the type of post and where they show the fixings. and all the pen and line type options. And you'll notice too that as you select any of these, the actual part of the ballast of the handrail changes color, so you know exactly what it is you are changing. Balusters, again, we can set them to be offset from the top or the bottom, where they have a horizontal offset, and offset from the left end or the right end. We can assign the pattern distribution, so whether we divide it into segments, that is more of them, or whether we have a fixed pattern length. And if we have a fixed pattern length, we then get the option of starting with the balusters from the end or from the center, or align the baluster to the center and start with it at the other end. On associated stairs, we can fit the baluster pattern to the stair tread, so that means that the balusters will line up with the stair treads. And this is how far we start the baluster from the previous post. And again, all the custom settings for the balusters. Now, panels, we haven't got panels on this one, but if we had panels, we can then go through and assign all the parameters for the panel, customize all that, show the framing, we can show the fixings. So if it's got a frame around the panel, turn that off or on. We choose material, choose the dimensions of the fixings. We can choose what type of fixings it is. So channel fixing for the bottom, set all the dimensions for those. So we can set the hole dimensions and the positions of the holes and how many there are. So if we wanted even 3, we could put 3 lots in. And then line type, pen type customizations. Now the nodes are all the connecting points, and how we're going to deal with like corners. So are we going to have a post in the corner? Are we going to have a post each side of the corner, and we can set the offset there? And are we going to have a post in the corner with a post each side with an offset? Then we can go to how the handrails actually connect at change in slope or angle. So we want a nice matching connection there, or we want them offset. So then again, we can set the manual connecting point. So that's the distance that the upper rail connects with the bottom rail out from the bottom tread. And this one here, you had 2 options of connecting to a vertical or a tilted post, or connecting tangentially like that on an angle where they both meet. Manual ending node offset. So that there is basically the same as that there. I don't know why I've got it twice. And then you can choose how to deal with the pattern at a corner. So we can either have a partial panel at a corner, or we can make the corners nice and even with a full panel. So then we come through to here, and we have just basically the same settings for the post. So this is the end rails of the handrail. So that's got all the same basic options. And the connection, so now how we want to deal with connecting top rails. So whether we want to have them, totally separate, on an angle. I mean, sorry, on like a vertical connection, or sort of angled around the corner. We can set the angle of the corner, or the angle of the curve. Sorry, the radius of the curve as we go around the bend, and the offset from where we want to start that curve connection. Then how do we finish a handrail down a stair? So whether we just keep running down or whether we run off horizontally, and basically the dimensions here for how far past the bottom tread and what sort of angle we have at the transition. And then we can override the surfaces there. So then we'll have properties, and then we can set the different end types for that handrail as well. So yeah, whether we want to it doesn't show that graphically, but yeah, so we can choose various and customize various ending options for our handrail there. So that's basically our handrail. So if we just have a quick show you on this one. So if we come here and we want to put a handrail on the stair, we can basically just grab the bottom of this stair, make sure we've got a handrail object, railing tool object selected, bottom of the stair to the top of that stair, and then we want to say go around this opening here so we can come to that point, come to there, into there, and double click to end. And here is our nice stair railing in place. Close enough. It's probably as good as you'll get out of ArchiCAD at the moment, I guess, but that's tidier than if we were to do the stair with an automatic handrail and then do the top handrail separately. Yeah, so that's basically the commands and how to build a stair. Not going to go into all the other customization stuff at this stage. I think a lot of what we do has reasonably straight stairs, yeah, so we'll keep it simple for now. So that's stairs and handrails. So remember to go through, check all your parameters as you go, and then you'll have an accurately designed stair right from an early stage of the project, and you won't need to go through and muck around with it later on. Now, the beauty too of ArchiCAD 21 Stairbuilder is that each stair component is separately modifiable, separately customizable, unlike the previous versions of ArchiCAD where we had to create stair objects, and then if we used the same stair object, say 4 or 5 times, but wanted to modify one of them, we then had to sort of separate it and create another stair object of its own. This does away with all that, so we've just got individual stairs throughout that we can deal with individually. So yeah, thanks all for coming in today, and we'll be back same time, same place next week. So catch you then. Cheers. Bye.